Take a moment to look at part A on your own. Part A says, what is the value of the number 2.25? How can this number be written as a fraction or mixed number? Pause the video right now to answer part A. We can think of part A in a couple different ways. 2.25, I can think of that as 2 wholes and then a quarter of another whole. So that's personally how I would think of 2.25. As a mixed number, that's 2 wholes, and then 1/4 of a last whole. So that's going to be 2 1/4. That's not the only way I could think of this, though. Here's the thing. Think back to that place value table from the top of your sheet. Take a look, and you'll notice that 2 is in my ones column. This next 2 is in my tenths column. So I'm going to write that as a fraction, 1/10, to save some space. And the 5 is in my hundredths column, which I'll write as 1/100th to save some space. So if I were to write this as a mixed number, but without simplifying, I know that I've got 2 in my ones column, so that's going to be a 2. And then I've got 25 hundredths, right? Because I could think of that as either 2 2/10 plus 5 hundredths, or I could just look at those as 2 25 hundredths. All right. Jumping to 2 25 hundredths is a strategy that we are going to use all throughout today's lesson. All right. So the reason this works is when I rewrite a decimal as a fraction, I can just look at my furthest right place value and write the decimal part of my number as a fraction over that place value. So again, because my 5 goes into the hundredths column, I can write this number as 2 25 hundredths. And then from there, part B is asking me to rewrite the fraction in its simplest form, showing all the steps that I use. So my 2 doesn't get simplified because regardless, as you can see over in part A, I have 2 wholes, no matter what denominator I use for my fraction. So my 2 stays the same. My 25 100ths, that can get simplified though, because the number 25 goes into both the numerator and the denominator of this fraction. So I'm going to take 25 100ths and divide it by 25 over 25. And when I do that, 25 divided by 25 gives me 1, and 100 divided by 25 gives me 4. So that's where I'm getting this simplified mixed number, 2 1/4. If you wanted it as an improper fraction, you could also multiply 2 times 4 to get 8, and then add 1 to get 9. So this would be the same as 9/4. So 9/4, 2 1/4, 2 25 hundredths, and 2.25 all mean the same thing. Using the information you just learned, take a look at parts C and D on your own. Pause the video right now to try C and D, and when you're ready, hit resume to check your answer.